Welcome to Exploring This Life. This is Season 1, Episode 26, and it is the final episode in our Berlin Ghost Town series. In this episode, we'll view the grounds where most of the people's homes were, some saloons, and the cemetery and the company store.
The majority of the park is going to be open year-round. So if you're in this area for any reason and you want a cool place to go visit, this is it. There's a lot to see here, a lot of history. If you're into history, this is definitely the place to go.
As with the other parts in the park, all along the trails there are placards that tell you who lived there or what establishment was located in that area. The Armstrongs lived in this location, and he was the blacksmith, and they owned the first gramophone or record player in this area. This is considered the outskirts of town, and this was one of 4 saloons in the area, and none of the saloons were actually located in the town of Berlin. It's interesting because beer and liquor, the sign says beer and liquor stocks were stored in an underground cellar. Beer was sold by the drink from bottles at 15 cents per drink, or 2 drinks for a quarter. Beer was kept extra cool by laying the bottles on the floor between wet burlap sacks. This was no menial task when you consider that all the water had to be hauled in an empty whiskey barrel or other containers. Bar whiskey usually came in 40-gallon barrels, and it also sold at 2 drinks for a quarter. A beer bottle that held 1/5 of a gallon of whiskey sold for $1, and a gallon sold for $4, if you had an empty jug to be filled. Also, so the saloon was a floor and a frame that were built of lumber and 2 large tents that were stretched end to end over it. The reason that no saloons could be in the direct town was because when the Nevada company bought the Berlin mine, the town site was considered company property, and so no alcohol or drinking was permitted on property. There were many homes tucked in this little area here. Some of them just have house numbers, like house number 9, which was for the bachelor miners. There was another home that a lady from Spain had moved into, and then Mrs. Servasky was a nurse, and she also took a lot of photographs. It says she took photographs of every kind and developed them herself. And there was also a forest ranger cabin, and it was his job to make sure that no trees were cut down except the ones that were stamped with the letters US. And on both sides of the hills, there was a lot of forestry going on, and a lot of woodcutters were employed. And nearly every tree was felled to fuel the boilers and steam engines when the mine was active. This was a root cellar for a family called Escargorta. The Escargorta's 4th child was born at this family house site, but died 5 weeks later and is buried in the cemetery. This was the site of the company store. It sold nearly everything needed in everyday living, including clothing, groceries, prospecting supplies, grain, and drugs. The local doctor acted as his own druggist by compounding the drugs he prescribed from the ingredients carried on the store shelves. W.J. Watson, who spoke a little Spanish, managed the store and was also the postmaster. In 1905, during some labor troubles, the store also served as a jail. During the day, the prisoner was chained to one of the porch posts, and at night he slept inside, chained to a cot. The building still standing in back was a warehouse with a storage cellar underneath.
So that building over there in the distance is the ranger station today. But it was originally the mine superintendent's house. Honey and I were in there earlier. I wish we could have recorded, but we were in there with one of the park rangers and didn't really want to do a whole lot of video in there at the time. But that building is really interesting because it's pieced together. Like a house would have been back in the day. You build the main living area, and then you build the bedrooms in the back, and maybe a kitchen and whatnot. Really authentic. The The wall coverings, some of the walls look like they were covered in what could have been like a cardboard, probably for insulation. I don't know that that's original to the 1800s. I can't imagine it being, but it's getting really windy again. So bear with me as we try and figure this out. These houses are not open to the public, but you can see here some old wheelbarrows, like a pan, maybe a decorative piece to an oven. The sign on this house says a home. According to this was the mine foreman's house. But that's not what this says. It says a home. This was a bachelor's quarters in 1906. That year, the Italian occupants staged a lively 4th of July celebration. Accordion music emanated from within, and wine flowed freely. Again and again, someone appeared at the open door to empty a 6-shooter into the air, thereby accentuating the merrymaking within the house. The following year, Felix Ascorgota moved in with his family and made this their home until the camp was shut down. I can't imagine a family living in this tiny, tiny little house. There is some furniture. I don't know that you can see much. Probably not. There's a bed frame right here in front of the window. I can't see much more. A suitcase. Let's see what we can see from this window. Oh, wow. There's an old ice box back there. I don't know if we can see any of that. But there's an ice box back there. Table with a meat grinder or a coffee grinder. Probably coffee grinder. An old milk jug. A wash basin. So cool that these are so preserved. Oh, I'm sorry. So 22 would have been the bachelor's quarter. This is Mrs. Stevens' house. Or Miss Stevens' house. Lot of saddles and whatnot in there right now. Probably used for storage. The sign says a home. Mrs. Stevens moved into this house after her former house, located between the Watson and Phillips houses in the next row below, had burned to the ground. She fed boarders to support her family of 2 boys and 2 girls living with her. 2 other sons were grown men. One of them, David, owned the Cloverdale Ranch, 30 miles south of here. So they were basically a mining family, making a living off the mines. That house there is lived in by one of the rangers. There are 2 sites on the property where the rangers live. I don't think that one is original to the property. No, it just says Park Ranger's house. So we'll move down here past the propane tanks. Another wheelbarrow. Would have probably been necessary back in the day to move stuff between sites. Probably very necessary. So what did I say that last one was? I said it was Miss Phillips, right? I'm getting kind of confused. So this should be 2. So that last one was 23, which is Miss Stevens' house. This is Miss Phillips' home. So what this one says is Miss Kate Phillips lived here until 1907. She then moved to Ione and opened a boarding and lodging house. Later, Bill and Mac Foster resided in this building for about 20 years. During that time, they prospected an area and also leased on company property. Later, they gardened and raised goats. Will got sick and was taken to Tonopah, where he died in 1953. In 1954, Mac died here of a heart attack. In his book, Odyssey of the Desert Prospector, Herman W. Albert's description of the house in which he lived fits the appearance of this building at the time. Miss Phillips moved to Ione previously, and it was very likely that Albert lived here when he was working for the company. So cool. Look at the door. How intricate the woodwork is. It's weathered, but it's withstood pretty well, I think. This glass is a sugar glass, I believe is what it's called. It's not a perfectly smooth finish. Would have definitely been for the time, because glass was really hard to make smooth back in the day. A lot of old bottles in here. One of them says, Idaho potato, tastiest of them all. Did they make some soda out of potatoes? Yuck. An old engine wheel of some sort. Notice the, I don't know if you can see it. You can see it better here. A brick walkway, which would indicate to me that this was a porch. It's right off the front of the building. Oh yeah. So there's bricks over there as well. Wonder how many a cold one was popped on this porch. Probably not a whole lot if she didn't drink. I don't know if women were allowed to drink back in the day unless they were a lady of the night. Moving up this way, we are now at what I believe to be number 4. No. Is that right? Well, let's see what the sign says. Yep. Foster's Blacksmith Shop. Bill and Mac Foster moved into this building to hear from Ellsworth. It was used as a blacksmith shop by then, where they were prospecting in this area for about 20 years, preceding the year 1954. Can't really see anything inside of there. Yeah, don't worry about the tractor. It's not original to the day. The park rangers must use this for everything. It's a Kubota. And further up the road, I saw a excavator arm that must attach to this, because it was made by Kubota as well. Back in the back here, there's more metals, a lot of signs. Honey's out here somewhere looking for the old cemetery. So she will probably document that if she can find it. Pretty sure we saw it from a distance. I'm not sure how far it was out there though. It's just way out there.
Here's an old wooden grave marker, not fenced in, right between two of the fenced in sections. We're there. And right there. very small cemetery. And it's quite a distance from the town.
Oh, this is cool. This is an old saw blade. Would have been used to make probably a lot of the wood for the buildings. And some sort of an engine here, but I'm not sure what that is. Would have had pipes out the top. Oh, I'll bet that engine ran this wood mill. Now look at the tires on this. This is an old trailer that was used for something. I don't know if you can see the tread pattern, but it's just a little bit of rubber and a pattern to give it kind of like a knobby appearance. Very cool. Probably not from the mining days, but might have been from some of the other stuff they did, the prospecting stuff. This is the back porch on the, let's see, Miss Phillips' house. Some old bottles, jars out here. Very cool though. An old pouch of some sort for a belt, a work belt. Look at the pattern on this fencing, if you can see it. It's like double-stranded. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Probably some sort of chicken wire back in the day. I'm not sure. That right there is a flipped over outhouse. You can see the hole down there in the bottom where would have been the poop hole. Don't go over there. There is a hole in the ground, so you don't want to fall in that. All right, I'm walking up to the Watson house right now. We already talked about this a little bit, but I did lose battery in the camera. So I'm going to come back and cover it again. Right here, we have an old-fashioned wheelbarrow with a wooden, or excuse me, a metal wheel on the front of it. Very strange, but probably period correct. We have an ornamental, what I think is a flower pot holder. Moving along, some old shovels, shovel heads, I should say. This, I believe, is a jackhammer of some sort, probably used in the mining process. What I believe is a gold pan, maybe not sure. Really old chair sitting out here, very weathered, but probably period correct. Then on display is probably stuff that they found along the way out here. Plates, glass, horseshoe, an old clamp, C-clamp, an old tin box that's shaped like a house with a chimney on top. Would be cool to know what that was. An old drill bit, a really big one. Again, probably used in the mining process. Pickaxes down here on the ground. Chisel, probably for a jackhammer. Another old bottle down there, odd shaped. I would imagine that was an oil can because it does have two spouts on it. One for air, one for the fluid to come out. Bunch of old bottles, an RC Cola from way back in the day. But what this says, Mr. Watson's house. W.J. Watson, who was a postmaster and store manager, lived in this house with his daughter, Mrs. Ruston, and his granddaughter, Zoe. Although Mr. Watson was an employee of high rank and he was aware of the anti-liquor policy of the company, he liked to drink a drink of beer occasionally. In order not to be involved in an embarrassing situation, he would give my father $1 and ask him to purchase 4 bottles of beer with it. He would reward Dad by giving him one bottle and sang in Spanish, Tres para mí y uno para usted, which means 3 for me and 1 for you. Mr. Watson was kind and helpful to everybody. So even to this day, on a lot of mine sites, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. That looks like an old wheelbarrow that's been rusted through, the body of it anyway. An old crate of some sort with a saw on top of it. And then an old stove, oven, I guess, with a stove top. Not sure what this piece is inside. It's really cool, all the stuff that they found on this property and then brought out for display. A lot of times this stuff walks away. I'm sure a lot of stuff did walk away from this area before it became a state park. Back here's a lot of wood and stuff. But what I wanted to see was this. I don't know what it is. Huge bug up on top of it. I don't know if you can see that. Creepy little guy. But it's just an odd shape. Don't know what it is.
This concludes season 1 of Exploring This Life. Thanks for following along with us so far on our journey. We appreciate you liking and commenting and subscribing to us. We'll see you back again with the start of season 2.